Good afternoon, sports fans. This is George with Custom Tied Flies and Guide Service. And this tutorial is going to be on the Tasmanian Devil Jig Nymph. Excuse me. So the hook is standard Shank 60-degree jig hook. The head is a slotted tungsten metallic pink bead to fit whatever size hook you choose. Thread, I'm using Danville Flymaster 140 in olive, and I'm also using Semperfly 50 denier in olive. That's Semperfly's Nano silk. So the tag is threads of Glow Bright. I get this from Hareline. Excuse me. And then you just fold them over until you get 8 strands, and then you attach that, then brush it out. The body is Hareline Hares ear Dubbin. It's HD4. The rib is for this size is UTC's Ultra Wire. This is BR in copper. And as you go down in size, of course, you go down in size for the wire rib. The collar is I'm using Hareline slate gray CDC. The thorax, I'm using this Peacock Spectra Dubbin. So and then of course I build a lead wire stopper behind my beads, and it gives it a little more head weight. So this is what it looks like when it's done. Of course, I tie these in sections, and pieces at a time. So once you get your bead on your hook, you're going to take 5 wraps of lead wire. Then get that, make sure that your bead isn't upside down, because it won't behave correctly if it is. And push that lead wire all the way up behind the bead. Tie in with your 140 denier in olive. Then to get the thread up over the lead, you want to make sure that it's flat. So that means you got to spin your bobbin counterclockwise until it flattens out. There we go. And then you just pull the thread up, take your thumb and put it on the back of the wire, and then take a couple of wraps right in front of your thumb, then pull the thread back towards the back of the lead, and that gives you something that the thread can pull in on without going down in between the layers of wire. And here you got your tail. Kind of even those strings up. And of course, you know, you could use like ice fur or something like that for the tail, but it doesn't give you the same effect as this does, because this is just more or less an attractor. It doesn't look like anything, you know, like natural food. Take a couple of turns to hold that in place. And this is the part where you're building a thread ramp up onto the back of the lead wire. Let's trim that off, and you can save that for another bug. Take you a little copper wire brush. This is a This is a 17 caliber bore brush. I like to use the smaller bore brushes on the smaller gap flies. Then you're going to trim this tail off just a little longer than even with the back of the bend. There we go. You're going to paint that with head cement. That's to make sure that nothing slips later down the road. It reinforces the inside of the fly. You're just going to hang that off to dry and cure. And once it does, you're going to get tied in with your 50 denier Nano silk. Let me show you that technique. So most times when you're getting tied in, your thread is kind of tight as you're trying to move it, and with this Nano silk it's really slippery, so you just want to take a couple of not even tight wraps, just a couple of loose, and then pull down on it, and that way you can get tied in quickly and the thread doesn't slip. All right. Now you need your copper wire. You want to tie that in on the far side. Sometimes it slips. You just hang that. You're going to use your bobbin cradle for that in a minute. Okay. And then you got your Hares ear HD4 dubbing from Hareline. I'm going to put the recipe for this in the description, like I do usually with the rest of them. Now remember, you want to put the dubbing on in little wisps, again, because you know it's easier to add it than it is to take it off. And you want to try to build you a tapered body up to the, you're going to stop about an eye width or a little better behind the bead, so that you have room for your collar, your thorax and your collar. So right about there, I'm going to take a couple half hitches. Swing that bobbin cradle around. And then bring your wire rib over. And you'll usually get about, I don't know, 3 or 4 wraps of wire. I'm going to try to get them as evenly spaced as possible. There we go. I've discovered that it's a little challenging to helicopter this heavier wire off, so I just use an old pair of scissors and snip it. Okay, now for the CDC. Now, there's a couple of different techniques. There's one where you use a clip and put this into a dubbing loop. I like to use the regular standard dubbing technique. So try to make my thread a little stickier. I'm going to put some soft beeswax on the thread. Then I'm just going to pull the fibers off of the feather. So you stroke them down so that they're standing straight out. And then just kind of pull them off and hold them in between your thumb and forefinger. And then you can just kind of dub them on there. And then I take my barrel brush and tease those out. I've got my little Peacock dubbing here, Spectra dubbing. It's number 335. I get this from Nature's Spirit. And you don't really need a whole bunch. Rope about an inch long will do. about that long, about an inch long, and just wrap that right into place. And then I'm going to use a wet whip finish with some Solares Bone Dry. And there you have it, Tasmanian Devil Jig. Excuse me. Of course, please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. There are a lot of other tutorials on this channel. And you can also find this and a lot of other tutorials on my website at custom-tide.com. That's www.custom-tied.com. Have a splash, don't forget the dash. I hope this was helpful for you. Happy tying.